Can you pick me up, please? Of course I can.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Effective Living. I'm excited about this evening's conversation. This is going to be a really, really good talk. I hope each and every one of you that are watching us for the very first time will do me a favor and subscribe to our channel here on Effective Living on YouTube. Now, I wanted to have this talk, and I felt as though, there are different people who they deliver. Every time they show up, they deliver. With that said, I want to introduce to some and welcome back to Effective Living for others, my good friend and sister, Simmone Bowe. What's going on, lady?
I'm right here, as we say in the Bahamas, right here. All is well.
All is well. Listen, man, it is such a delight to have you joining me this evening. I've been watching you for a while, and you've been on my platform, and you always deliver. You always deliver.
Thank you.
So with that said, go ahead and tell our viewing audience a little bit about Simmone L. Bowe.
Certainly. Well, I love to separate my who from my do.
Yeah.
So my who is, I am a very eclectic person. I have very strange interests.
Yeah.
Some that are pretty classic, some that are kind of out there. I'm a foodie. I love my own company. I've come to realize I'm an ambivert. So even though I'm out there and speaking and all of that, I definitely regroup best on my own, in my own space. I love to travel. I love the ocean. It inspires me. I love vanilla ice cream and guava duff. Now, what I do, I am a leadership coach, an HR professional, and strategist, an author, a mentor, a singer. And I help progressive, purposeful leaders to win at work through amplifying their brand so that they can transform their work culture.
That is so good. And you've been doing what you've been doing for a while,
A very long time, different versions of it. And I think I've landed on what I really, really want to do. Because I've always been into corporate training, and I still do. And coaching is something that's come along of late, I would say in the last 5 years. But I use coaching skills in my training and speaking because I love the process of coaching. I love the fact that it takes someone from A to B. It moves them into action. I love that.
Yeah. There are a lot of people. There are a lot of people who, they have not found themselves to a degree that they can clearly say, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is what brings joy to my heart. Let's dive into some more. When you found the true understanding of what you like and what you don't like, when did that start to tap in or come alive for you?
To be honest with you, it really dovetails with your topic because I didn't start that until I got divorced.
Okay.
I didn't really get on a journey of self-discovery until I lost myself. And I lost myself in a marriage.
Wow. Wow.
And I was like Julia Roberts in that movie, Runaway Bride.
Yeah.
Where she morphed into whoever she felt her partner wanted her to be. And she had to go in this period of self-discovery. What kind of eggs do I like? What kind of music do I like?
Yes.
What activities do I like? Because whoever she was with, she just pretended to like what they were into. to be with them. And so I discovered that, like I said, after marriage crashed and burned, and I had to really figure out, who am I? Who is Simmone? I'm no longer someone's wife.
Yep.
I'm not anybody's mother, as I didn't have any children or anything like that. So who am I?
Yep. How important is that question to be asked to a person? Because we're talking today about this whole subject, single but not alone. But before we even dive into that, I like that question because I think it's a critical one that must be answered by everyone who are desiring to live life effectively. How important is that question for each person to take the time to understand?
That is one of the biggest questions that we must answer in life. I think aside from deciding whether or not we believe in God, I think that is one of the big questions. Who am I and why am I?
Yep.
Who am I is my identity. Why am I is my purpose. But we have to know who we are. For the one important reason is what I said. If you don't know who you are, you will morph into someone that you don't even recognize yourself, because you will allow all of the external influences to now shape your character, shape your worldview, shape your perspective, shape your opinions. Haven't you been around people who just go with the flow? They just agree with this opinion and they agree with that opinion, and they don't have a stand of their own.
Yep.
Because they don't know themselves. I always say, I work in HR, I'm an HR professional. I always say that rules are for people who break them. When you know yourself and you can manage yourself, you don't need rules. You don't need other people's opinions.
Yep.
You know what you stand for. You know what your values are. You know what's important for you. You know what your deal breakers are. You know what you want out of life. And that's the basis of everything. Every decision that you can make should be from that foundation of who you are.
Yeah. Well, I so like that. I've been on this search. I've been, in search of myself. And I was telling someone a few weeks ago, I'm 45 years old. And it feels amazing to now tap into what I should have figured out when I was a kid. I should have figured out so many things. And now I'm realizing it is possible to live for a while. It's possible to live for a while and never discover who you are. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And I wanted to actually say, to maybe relieve some pressure of you and your audience, that these are massive questions that you may not be able to answer as a child.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
Right? I mean, when I got started on my journey, I was in my 20s and 30s. When I got divorced, I was going on 35. I was 35, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
So can you imagine? I'm 35, just trying to figure out who I am. Yeah. So I left high school at 15, going on 16. How in the world? Yeah. Right? I mean, we have inklings, though. Yeah, and I do want to say that we do have some innate things on the inside of us that we must pay attention to when we are young. Yeah. And as parents, we have to be so careful on how we speak to our children, how we nurture them in those things that they may be exhibiting at an early age. I was talking with another friend of mine. I was interviewed by her, and she was saying how she always got in trouble for talking. And my niece, I would always share this story. Same thing. When she was in school, always got that comment, talks too much. But they talk now for a living. It's a part of who they are, right? Yeah, and so we have to pay attention to those things as we grow in life. And I see one of your comments here is saying it's okay to be a late bloomer. I'm even questioning that concept of a late bloomer, because where do we even get the timeline from? I think it's very important for us to challenge some of the beliefs and practices that we have in our society, in our culture, right? Like, who says that I have to have all my stuff together by the time I'm 18,
Yeah.
that I'm going to go to college by 19,
Yeah.
that I'll probably get my first job at 22 or whatever that is. I'll probably be engaged by 25. I'll be in my first home by 30. These are the things that get us in trouble.
Yeah.
Because when we don't hit those timelines, then we start to beat ourselves up.
Yeah.
And we start to say, you know what? I'm not hitting these timelines. Something's got to be wrong with me.
Yeah.
I'm a late bloomer.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just need the right environment
Yes.
to stimulate who they are. And sometimes high school ain't it. Sometimes the neighborhood you grew up in ain't it.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yes. The reality of it is that the work that is required for one to discover oneself, there is very seldomly teachers, environments that are set up to help us nurture that. And maybe it could be that someone could discover it early, but to have the supportive mechanisms, systems, individuals for that oftentimes is not present. There are people today who feel alone. I want to talk about this whole word alone first and foremost. You know, I remember my mother used to say when we were young, "You can't be left at home." I don't remember. I don't know. They left me. You know, you home. You can't be left at home. It should be okay to still be at home. But 2020 revealed that there were a lot of people who are struggling with the whole idea of being by themselves. And they're trying to find ways to escape. Let's start there. This whole concept of the power of alone versus the understanding as to how society has made the word look like a bad word, actually.
Absolutely. And there's certainly a difference between alone and lonely.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes this is where we get the wires crossed.
Yeah.
And of course, we love to use those biblical references. It is not good for man to be alone, you know?
Yeah.
All of the extroverts love that particular verse, right? I can't be by myself. But I think that being alone is a very important part of, and I actually wrote about this in my most recent book called Me First. It's a self-love guide for the purposeful woman. But that is the very first thing that I talk about, that you have to spend time by yourself.
Yes.
There are some critical things that happen when you are alone.
Yeah.
And being alone doesn't mean that you are disconnected. And it doesn't mean that you are estranged.
Yeah.
It just means for this period of time, I am by myself.
Yeah.
So I could be alone right now.
Yeah.
And in half an hour, I could be surrounded by people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could be surrounded by people and feel lonely.
Yeah.
Now, there's a big difference. But when you feel lonely, when you are surrounded by people, it means then that you are disconnected. And you're disconnected from your who. You're disconnected from who you are and your basis. I know we're going to talk about that and getting comfortable with being alone. But I think that the whole connotation around even quarantining, and, you know, we use these words, self-isolation, we use these words like social distancing. And I know that as we transitioned through the pandemic, that people started to change that nomenclature to physical distancing, because we recognize the power of connecting with others, and that we should not be distancing ourselves socially. How could we find other ways to still connect with people and keep safe? So there's a great difference between what is alone and spending time with ourselves. There's important information that comes up about ourselves. There's important activities that we should be doing, like meditating, journaling, planning, visioning, setting goals, evaluating, measuring, right? Assessing ourselves and where we are and what we want to do. All of those things happen very well when we are by ourselves and we can reflect.
Unfortunately, though, we live in a society You get home only to open the door. It could be that we have been conditioned to believe if nobody is at the house for 2 days, we go into a depressed state.
Depression.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. We go into a depressed state. Now,
Mhm.
now you mentioned a lot of good things that ought to happen in the life of a person who understand the power of having some alone time.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this word single, the single person, the misunderstanding of being single. Let's
Mhm.
dive into that, because I think there's a lot to be said about that word. Single
Yes.
person. Let's look at that.
Yeah. I think that Dr. Miles Monroe really captured that for me very well. I loved the way he referenced singleness, and he talked about singleness as being whole, a whole unit. We have this misconception that relationships are 50-50, and it implies then that I bring 50%, you bring 50%, and we make 100. And what Dr. Miles used to teach was that you should be 100, and that mate should be 100. Or even if you don't even decide to get into a relationship or marriage, that you should
Still should
be
be.
100.
Yeah.
What is the importance of that? It means then that you understand that you are a whole person in yourself and by yourself. You understand, going back to this, who you are, and you understand the good, the bad, the ugly about yourself. And so being single means that you are a complete entity that makes you a very powerful entity if you embrace that season or that state that you're called to.
Let's roll back, because I like that. A person in pursuit of becoming 100, right,
Yes.
has to discover that there may not be 100 and figure out where they are, because it's possible to start a relationship and only have brought yourself up to 40.
Listen.
You brought yourself, now you are on a journey to becoming, because obviously you're not a 0, you're a 40 on en route to becoming 100. God forbid you're a 40 and you met an 80, and
Hey.
both of y'all now decide to make a commitment because you don't want to be
Woo.
alone, but
Woo.
you have not taken the. Talk to us about that. I don't want to even go any further. Talk to us.
Man, that's trouble right there. That's trouble right there, because I can see the future of that person who is 80.
Yeah. Wow.
And I can see a future of great frustration and pain and torment if that person who is 40 gives up on the journey. And this is what happens. We look at marriage as a destination. And once I could get that man and once I could get that woman, then I'm done. That's not it. When we are purposeful, purpose transcends roles and responsibilities. Hello.
Yes, come on.
Purpose is that higher calling that we are required to do no matter where we are, no matter who we're with, no matter what we have or we don't have. And so this is where people get off course, because they put their whole focus on a wedding day, because they don't even put it on the marriage.
Yeah, right.
On the wedding day.
Yeah.
I want to be, and it's worse now in these days of FOMO and social media and everything else. I want to be able to put my engagement there. I want to be able to put pictures there with me and my boo and all the places we go in, all the restaurants and all the fun things we got going on. And then, we got to get the wedding pictures, the engagement pictures, all these other leading up to, and the hashtag this and that.
Yeah.
And we get so caught up in that. And we figure, now I've got that ring, I'm done. But life is not like that. We are constantly growing. We are constantly, you see what you have on your banner? Every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. Every day, that should be our focus. Every evening or whenever you do your personal reflections, you should be asking yourself, where am I in the scheme of things
Yeah.
on this journey to 100?
Yeah. Yes.
Am I 41 today?
Yeah.
Did I
Let me. I have to plug in there. Where am I? Because I want someone to write that in the comment section and hold on to that. Where am I in the scheme of things? I like that. But
Yeah.
in addition, I want you to further elaborate on the fact of let's just say I am 60, okay, and maybe I'm in pursuit of better days in front of me by becoming a 100. But there are people who are fighting to connect with someone and they're 60, but they don't haven't take the time to assess where I am. Where am I? So I thought that is such a great question, because if I don't know where I am and you don't know where you are, but both of us want to walk together, and then we do commit before an audience that we're going to do life together,
We're
only to
lost.
discover that neither of us are whole, or one is whole and the other one is part. They're not complete. And like, as you
Yes.
mentioned, sometimes we think wholeness comes within the confinement of the marriage when it doesn't. Help us out in this dive in thought of where am I in the scheme of things? Personally, how am I doing?
Yeah. See, and it's important to understand that when you get in relationships, and this is any relationship, romantic, friendship, otherwise, relationships act as a mirror. That person, the behaviors that they have, the psyche, the mindset, the values come to challenge you, to challenge your psyche and your place of healing and where you are. And a lot of times, what we consider as pet peeves in relationships may actually be triggers for something that you need to work on yourself. Why does how this person eats his food make you so mad?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, when you dig deeper in there, then you start to discover some things about yourself. It ain't the fact that he may chew them chicken bones to a pulp, right?
Yeah.
What is it in you? What is it that you may have brought with you? What is it that you have not healed from? What childhood trauma may be triggered in these moments? And so it's very important for you to ask yourself, where am I in the scheme of things? Where am I in my wholeness? Why is it that I feel so intimidated when I am at work? This isn't all about romance now, y'all, because
Yeah.
you show up everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Why is it that I can't open up in meetings?
Yeah.
Why is it that I can't share the great idea or challenge some thought that's being expressed? Why is it that when they ask me to do a reading or to open up in prayer or something at church, that I something happens on the inside of me and I fold up? That is an indicator of where you are in the scheme of your wholeness. Because there's still some things that you need to develop. I have discovered that many people who call themselves shy oftentimes are just operating either in extreme fear or from, as you mentioned before, from some significant figure in their life being so critical to them that it pushes them into thinking that they can't do it when they actually can do it. So that question is very important to ask yourself at your 60, 70, 20, 15. Where am I in the scheme of things on my way to 100?
Mm. Now, we're going somewhere with this. Tonight, I am joined with Simmone. Bowe, listen, we're talking single but not alone. If this is your first time watching us, please subscribe to this channel. We would love for you to give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying the conversation. But in addition, share this. Somebody needs to hear this, because there are some practical truths that will be shared that will enlighten and enrich those who are watching that may just need exactly what's being talked about. Now, Simmone, you talked about doing this digging, this digging.
Mhm.
That's something I've learned lately, the importance of digging. And I
Yes.
found that a lot of what I believed was wrong.
Yep.
I
Trust me.
discovered that I was convinced, confident, and wrong. But nobody can tell me anything, because the older I get, the more rock solid I became in what I believe.
Yeah.
And so when you talked about digging, the Bible teaches us that the truth shall set us free.
Mhm.
One of my coaches said to me a few years ago, I started to adopt the saying. He says, if you want to fight for what's not working for you, or what you've been holding on to, but you're having a hard time, his question is, whenever you kick back, his question is, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
He said, how's that working for you? So I want to talk about the fact that we could become very confident in what we're expressing about where we are, but it isn't necessarily meaning that we're true or we're right, and may have just not done the work to identify, I I need her to be like this, I need him to be like that. Well, you mentioned it just now. Where did that come from? Do I really need him to be like that, or do I really need her to be like that? Or is it something about me that needs to be looked into as to why I'm coming up with this conclusion?
Correct.
That's some work, though, Simmone. That's some work. A lot of people.
Plenty work. Plenty work. And that actually is the second key that I share in my book. It's do the work.
Yeah.
So once you spend that time with yourself and these things are revealed, or you're with people and they are mirroring something that's triggering for you, you got to do the work. You got to be able to face your feelings, whatever they are. You have to be able to challenge your beliefs, which is what you did.
Yeah.
Right? You have to think now, hey, I've heard somebody say it before, when you're strong and wrong. You know, them people, they gonna argue you to the ground, boy, but they wrong. And so you have to challenge your beliefs. And a lot of the things that we have been grown up on, raised in our upbringing, has been off.
Wow.
Think about it. I challenge you tonight. Take out a journal and write down 5 things that you were taught as a child, that if you were to truly analyze this, does this make any type of sense?
Simmone, I had to make a life-altering decision. And I was doing a show not so long ago. The interviewer said, how you from the streets, Ricardo Miller? How come you didn't lose your mind and act the fool? I said, because I've now since learned, since leaving the street, that the way that I would have responded, even though 30 years later, having not been on the street, Simmone, I still have people who anticipate my response to be that of the street. But say they said, oh, he gone soft, because how come you did not respond like we were raised to respond based on the behavior that occurred in your setting? And here's what my response was. I said to the interviewer, the reason why I did not respond the way that I would have responded, like when I was 18 or 20, I said, is because I evaluate the situation, going back to knowing yourself and what you're about. And I say, my life is consists of 10 things. What was happening in the moment was only one. If I had acted like I was when I was 17, I would lose all 10.
Hello. So it goes back to what your coach said. So if you are in corporate, wherever, you're in the boardroom, and someone is jabbing you and jabbing you, know, if you on the street, what you will do to somebody who getting under your skin.
Yeah.
How's that popping off working for you?
Yeah. Come on.
How's that cussing everybody out working for you?
Yes.
Like, seriously, like at 40, you're still popping off at people? You're still cussing people out? You're still shutting down and not able to express yourself properly? Hello? A lot of that. I was there.
Yeah. Let's talk about this. You used this word a couple of times, and I want to dive into this because this is so good. You talked about triggers. I want you to talk about that for a moment, because a lot of people haven't taken the time to even identify what their triggers are. And their triggers are present, and it reveals themselves. It reveals itself all the time. My son, I remember a few years back, he said something, and I said, boy, don't do that, right? And I realized, that's when I started to realize, okay, it was a trick. Where did that come from? And it was a
Mhm.
form of disrespect from whence I came. But he was not disrespecting me. But in my culture, to how I was raised, when you respond that way, you could get something thrown at you, you know? I must
That's right.
talk, right? And so I had to now figure, hold on, evaluate your triggers. This is the
Hmm.
reason why I don't actually respond the way I used to respond, because I'm now aware of these triggers. Now, as a
That's right.
single person, even when it comes to a relationship, what are the triggers that get you interested? What are the triggers that turn you off? What are the triggers that you know you don't like, but you suppress, don't acknowledge, and refuse to address in the early stage of an introduction of a relationship or the development? Oh, come on now. So,
Woo!
Simmone, talk to us about the trigger dynamics in our singleness, in our development stage.
Yes. Understanding our triggers is vital. And one of the biggest ones as a single person, again, it goes back to knowing yourself, understanding yourself, doing the work, because dysfunction attracts dysfunction.
Wow. Wow.
Dysfunction attracts dysfunction. And so what you may be thinking is that that fluttery feeling of love could actually be your dysfunction fluttering in your stomach. How do I know this? My dysfunction was being a victim and feeling like I was powerless in the face of authority figures, particularly men. I attracted someone with extreme insecurities,
Mm.
who, when you have extreme insecurities, what you need most is control,
Wow. Wow.
because you want to make sure that everything around you is stable and you could depend on it, and it's comfortable. Insecurity means uncertainty, right? So if I'm insecure, I don't want to feel uncertain. I don't want to feel uncertain in anything, on my job, in my relationship, whatever. So you see that? Control is attracted to weakness. And here we go. Woo! We in love. So when they calling all the time, where you is, what you wearing, what you doing, who you with, who you talking to, because you feel like you ain't nobody. You so happy to be in this relationship. Oh, he loves me. He always checking in on me. He always want to know what I'm doing and what's up. So we have to check that, because that shouldn't be attractive to us. That is actually a red flag that you should be picking up your gown tail. Right? So that's a big one. Dysfunction attracting dysfunction. And so it is important that when you are single, that you dig into what are the things that trigger me. One of the other things that's important is understanding my pain points from previous relationships and friendships.
Mm.
Those things trigger us as well. So when you're looking at someone, you're trying to figure out, is this the one for me? And then you're just measuring them to the previous person, as opposed to understanding who you are and what you want and need for this current time. You got to move past the pain. You have to move past that person cheating on you. Because the next person that comes along, if you're paying attention to the red flags, then you'll bypass another cheater. But it doesn't mean that everybody you meet is going to be a cheater. Right? So it's so important to understand, like, what are these things? And sometimes it doesn't even have to be those big ticket things.
Yeah.
It can be other things in, for instance, what you are looking for in another human being. what your values are, how you think about money, how you think about raising a family. What do you think about integrity, honesty, the little things, how you act? I'll never forget, I think Joyce Meyer did a teaching before, and she talked about Christian behavior. And she talked about when you go into a store, and if you move something off the shelf or on the rack, do you put it back? Or do you put it in the area where it doesn't belong? Like small things that speak to integrity. How do you act when you're around other people, when you're around friends? How do you act when you are, around your family? What are some of the things that you do? Do you hide from bill collectors? Like all of these things are very important areas of your life that you have to now dig into, because they will unravel when you get in front of the mirror, which is that relationship.
Simmone, there are people who would have said, I've done the work on me and I think I'm doing really well, but they have not assessed themselves. And what they're judging may be, I'm doing well as a professional person. I'm doing well as a believer in the confinement of a church setting.
Hey.
And so at work, I am accomplished. And at church, I am in good standing. But when you get close to me, outside of those two spaces, if you had to remove the requirements that is being given thumbs up from those two spaces, you end up finding that you have a lot of people who have not done the work with themselves. They've they've hidden themselves under the professional title or the spiritual position, only to be hollow and not whole. What's your view on this understanding that one must properly assess themselves? Because you talked about it, there was so many words you used that a person should be about in their alone time or in their quiet time, in those times where you could be by yourself discovering what you need to discover. Because the truth is, a lot of us have learned things we should have never learned. And now we have to go through a season of unlearning what we should have never learned. So that's some work, but I want a relationship. I want a relationship, and I see her, or the lady might say, I see him, and we're connecting well, but have we done the work to make sure as individuals we're okay? What's your view on that whole assessment of oneself? I want to go back there because I really believe that that's where a lot of people are missing it, and they're covered by those two positions that gives us some form of prominence. I'm in good standing with God, and I'm a boss on my job. I must be A1. Come on.
Listen here, why are you talking about me? Why you want to pull my file like this? That was my life. And when I hit rock bottom for the very last time, and I said, how in the world did I get here?
Wow.
Grown woman.
Yeah.
Must see 3 degrees.
Wow.
Doing well on the job. Minister of music in the church, leading praise and worship all over the place, writing books. But you a hot mess emotionally. And so accountability is very important. And so you have to have relationships in your life that hold you accountable, and people who will tell you the truth about yourself. You don't want to surround yourself with people who are only going to affirm you. Affirmation is wonderful and it's great, and we need it. It's actually one of my love languages. But if people only affirmed me, I would never grow. I need the friend, I need the coach, I need the loved one, whomever, the boss, even the frenemy and the hater, to tell me about myself every once in a while. Because they are going to tell me some things about myself that sometimes now they may be off, but sometimes there may be a sliver of truth in there that I need to pay attention to, and that I need to examine about myself. And I need to be honest about myself. I think that's a part of the danger of the the era that we're in right now with personal development and self-love and self-care and everything. And you got to love yourself and all of this. And sometimes I believe we get out of balance with that because now we don't want nobody to tell us anything about us. Don't criticize me, don't give me any feedback, don't rock my boat because I'm a queen. Right? I'm a king. I'm doing my thing. But then you're doing your thing, but you're not as effective. You're not as effective because you're not being truthful. You're not authentic because you're not real. And we work and we church with so many people who are like that. And we look at them and we wonder, I wonder if they actually see themselves. I wonder if, right? And it comes through in the decisions they make.
Yep.
It comes through in their interactions, their ability or inability to build networks and form relationships, their ability to communicate what is necessary. It comes through. You can run, but you cannot hide for long. Your cover is going to be blown.
Wow.
So it is better for you to do the work on yourself. Have the accountability partners in your life who are going to help you see yourself in your fullness and understand. I don't know where I saw it, but I never forgot it. Understand that you are flawsome. You are awesome, yet flawed. You're flawed, but hey, I still got it going on. But I got some things I got to work on.
Simmone, I thought about something a few years ago. I wrote about it in my book, and I said that someone is watching you mess up who's capable of helping you and ain't saying nothing.
Hey, my God.
Let me say it again. Someone is watching you mess up who is capable of helping you and they're not saying anything. And so one of the things that is supportive to that is someone is assigned to help you. Now, there's a statement that says when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Now, the challenge is, Simmone, as you mentioned, if someone's assigned to help me, then that means I need help. We all need help. We're not in and of ourselves all things, right? So,
and we have to let them in, Ricardo. Sometimes that's a trigger too.
That's where I want to go. I want to go there. The more I there, because one of the things I've discovered is the older we get, the more we become uninterested. Let me use that term.
That's safe.
That's safe, right? Of anybody pushing us or suggesting us to go where we don't want to go. So that's why I talk about this a lot, and it happens so much, Simmone. I had a Mustang, a red convertible Mustang. Loved this car. Had 22-inch rims on it. It was convertible too. Okay, I put in speakers in the back. On Saturdays, I would only pull it out of my garage, and I would rep. Okay, I had on my reggae coming down the street Saturday morning, car clean.
Leaning to the side.
Ooh, right? Yeah. I'm just looking good, right? Music pumping. Now, here's the deal. I pulled up at a donut spot, and I got, I'm from the island, so give me a couple of those coconut donuts, right? They gave me a couple of coconut donuts, Simmone. I got the music pumping, got on my shades. I'm eating my coconut donuts, pulled up at the mall, put the top back up, walked in the store. I'm on the phone, Simmone. Give me one of those, a size 13, and give me one of those. I got up to the counter, bought what I bought, went into another store, bought something else, went into another store. Then I was walking out. And when I was walking out, I walked past a store that was more mirror than it was glass in the regular sense. And as I was walking past, I looked in the mirror, only to discover that a coconut donut was on both sides. Now, I had finished eating that coconut donut before I came in the mall. What I got out of that, I never forgot it.
I would have never forget that.
I talked to people face on who was looking me in the face.
I never told you a thing.
And did not say anything. And I said to myself, I wonder how much areas of my life is that clear of a mess that there are people who are walking in. Because as Simmone, as a professional, you can walk into a space as a skilled person and see what an unskilled person isn't seeing. As a matter of fact, I've come to the conclusion there are more eyes on me than I am on myself. And it
Yes.
will be smart of me to basically ask often, what do you see that I don't see? So with that said, Simmone, there are people who have a hard time embracing the help to figure out where they're missing it. Because if the question is asked, how's that working for you? If we really think about it, we're like, well, it's not working. Then why am I continuing to do this? Talk to us about getting help and talk about opening ourselves up. Because some people, I have another quote I tell my son. He said, Dad, why didn't you tell that lady? I said, advice given but not requested is seldomly appreciated.
That is, woo.
So I'm not fond of sharing advice, because oftentimes if it's not requested, it's not appreciated. So I want you to talk to us about this whole dynamics as an individual wanting to come up as a whole person, single, thriving, and accepting where you are on your journey to whatever it is that God has for you. What do you think is going on with a person who's what's your view on that accepting others' assistance on a journey to fullness?
Yeah, it's a couple of things happening, right?
Yeah.
So being willing to accept that help, to accept another viewpoint, another perspective of things, it speaks to great self-awareness, which is, of course, one of the components of emotional intelligence. So when you are self-aware, it means that you're very much able to recognize yourself, recognize your mood, recognize those triggers, recognize where you're at in a given moment, and not only recognize it, but also be able to express it. Now, when you get someone who is willing to share those things about you, you now have to make yourself vulnerable to that feedback. And now this is where you get into the emotional side of things. This is where this may become a trigger. So many people walk around with trust issues where their trust has been violated. They've been disappointed for so long. Like, I came up with this realization, right? Like, I was sick a few weeks ago, and one of my friends fussed me out, and in actual fact, cussed me out. I tell you, used all kind of dirty language because I didn't say anything. I didn't say that I was sick. And he was so upset. He said, you are so fiercely independent. And there are people around you who want to help you. And I know that that is true. And that is a trigger for me. And I had to think about that. And like, what is that? And I realized that when you're fiercely independent like that, it means that you've probably been disappointed a whole lot. And you feel like, I can't depend on anybody. I've asked for help and I didn't get it. I asked certain people and they couldn't do it. I asked certain people, they let me down. They didn't come through. So you know what? As we say in the Bahamas, cheapest. Cheapest, I do that myself. And I'm not going to ask anybody. But if I wasn't open to my friends being so forthright and actually sitting and thinking about that and not blowing it off and saying, man, you're always in your feelings, right? Because that's what we do too. We blame, we put it on other people, and we don't want to acknowledge or take responsibility for our part. We have to take responsibility. We have to recognize, what part have I played in this? And we can sometimes only do that when someone else is in the picture. Now, culturally, we have been conditioned to believe that asking for help is a sign of weakness. When we ask for help, whatever that may be, you could be struggling carrying bags and boxes. What is it about you that makes you feel like you can't ask somebody to open the door or to help me carry these things? Could you help me with this? I'm famous for that. I would struggle to the nth degree. But I am learning now to ask for help, even when it's offered to me. So that unsolicited advice, if someone says, you know, do you need help with that? Do you need help with those bags? I'm the first person to say, yes, please. Help me with the bags.
You're going to like this, so because I wake up every morning and one of my prayers is, Lord, who's assigned to help me?
Hey!
Come on. Because I know now, had I knew what I know now when I was in elementary school, they would have skipped me or the special ed and put me in the top class because I would have asked the kid next to me, how did you figure out 1 + 1 is 2?
Hello?
I have no clue, and you are getting A and I'm getting F.
Hello?
Could I sit with you at lunchtime and
hello?
help me figure out? But I was shooting marbles, and I wanted to beat up the dude for getting A's.
Correct.
He could have helped me to get A's just as he was getting A's because he discovered it and we were the same age. Simmone, let's talk about this. 7 strategies you would offer singles who are somewhat feeling alone, you know, to not feel alone. And this is where they are, the work that has to be done, you're by yourself. And there are a lot of people, I've heard people say things like, oh, I'm tired sleeping in my bed by myself. I'm tired of going home to my house by myself. Oh my goodness, I need to let someone drive with me at work because I don't like driving by myself. Over the pandemic, I almost lost my mind because I was all home by myself. What's going on there, and what advice do you have for our viewing audience?
So my first strategy is, as a single person, as that person who is striving to be 100, is find yourself. And many times the reason why we constantly want to fill our lives with activity and people is because we don't know who we are. If you knew who you are, you would be so preoccupied with exploring yourself. And I don't mean that in the negative way. That came out wrong, right? But really understanding who you are, what you want, what, again, those things that you need to fix about yourself and fine tune. What are the things that you want to, as you mentioned, learn, unlearn, relearn? Who do you want to become in this world? And what do you need to become to achieve the things that you want to achieve? So find yourself. Number 2, find your purpose. I find people who are not purpose driven, they all about driving in other people's lanes, right? You know, you in America, you know, you got to, there's a protocol to changing lanes.
Come on, yeah.
Right? And so if you don't know your purpose, you will encroach on things where you, and places and people where you should not be. When you know your purpose, you understand what you ought to be about, and you would be so busy doing that. I could tell you something, and this is something that I have been studying, Ricardo, and I don't know if this is maybe something that I really need to put some attention on. But can purposeful people be in a relationship?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Because if you were really purposeful, you would be so busy. Yeah. Because I have gotten that criticism. Yeah. You are too busy for a relationship.
Wow.
I've gotten that criticism.
And you know, I think what happens is if 2 100 meets that's in purpose, which is rare, and that they're okay when they do decide to stop, that both has mutually brought themselves to a place where your continuing to go does not affect me. Your decision to stop doesn't affect me, because both of us, you know, the Bible talks about unequally yoked. Now the work, the child. Listen. You know, I was the children's minister for the longest, right? I gotta go. Yeah. I told some of my colleagues, I said, listen, you should volunteer in children's church, if only to make sure that the opposite to your child is raised right. Because here's the deal. At the end of the day, those kids are going to grow up to be adults, and they need companionship. And you're hoping that if you did the work to become 100. You know why a lot of purposeful people won't get connected? Is because there are a lot of other sides who did not do the work equally.
I'm
So the
telling you.
mutual connection isn't easy to find
I'm telling you.
because, Simmone, let me tell you, the challenge is you are on 100 and somebody comes in looking like they're 100, okay? Come in looking like they're 100 only to discover later
They
on
40.
that they 100
They're
and you
100.
still on 100.
Right.
And now they start to tell you need to slow down. Okay?
You need to stop doing that. You need to stay home with me. You don't have enough time together. All this other stuff.
And then what's it? And then the bigger society ain't on 100. And so they're telling you, girl, you about to lose because you should slow down. Well, you're a 60 and you're a 40 and you're a 20 and you're a 30. And all of y'all got an opinion about me, who's a 100, who's a rare breed. Because narrow is the way that leads to purpose. Come on.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. That ain't scripture. I never said it was scripture. I just said
gospel according to Ricardo Miller.
Ain't that the truth? Finish, please. I'm sorry.
No, but that is an important one that I think a lot of people need to think about. And if you are a purposeful single, that's something that you have to think about. And it cannot be chemistry alone, emotion alone that drives your relationship decisions. Purpose has to be in the mix. Because as Ricardo said, and I meet a lot of purposeful men. And I could tell you, they ain't got no time for nobody. You know what I'm saying? So this is very important. You have to know yourself. You have to be confident and comfortable in yourself to say, can I be alone while that person is out there doing their thing? Right? And we may not be able to connect. Can I be comfortable just supporting that person? Just going out there and just being in the background while they're shining and doing their thing. Am I comfortable with that? Purpose must align.
You know, some people answer that and they would say yes.
Yeah.
But watch this. When the rubber hits the road, when time has settled in,
they ain't ready for that.
Because it's a testing position, especially when your girlfriend and the employees and the people at everybody is not functioning at what you are experiencing. And then you start feeling what we call peer pressure.
Yes.
And the reality of now, watch this, because as soon as you have what you prayed for, but you found out what you prayed for is more than you prayed for.
Hey.
And you may have to try to bring them back, and they don't want to come back because if they're still on purpose and you're not, Houston, we got a problem.
And I will tell you this, purpose will win.
Wow. Purpose will win. Oh my God, that's a quote. Somebody post that today. Purpose will win. Purpose will win.
Hey, I'm telling you.
I'm here today.
Telling you.
I'm here right now telling you purpose kept me.
Okay then. Okay. Anyhow, let me go to strategy number 3. Find community. Wow. So you must find that the groupings, the people, the networking, the network of people where you belong, wherever that may be. We are people of faith, so we talk a lot about church. Sometimes church can be that place if you find the right place. Sometimes that may be in civic organizations. It may be work. It could be in, volunteerism or whatever, wherever you find. It could be in your apartment building. It could be in your neighborhood. Find community. So in those moments where you feel like, I don't really want to be alone, that there's some place where you feel that you fit in and you feel that you belong, that you are understood, you are accepted and embraced. That's very important as a single person and even as a married person. It's important to have a community anywhere where you feel like you belong. Your marriage should be someplace where you feel like you belong. Some people in marriages where they don't feel like they fit in and they feel alone in a marriage. Again, because we're unequally yoked. Number 4, strategy number 4, cultivate an inner circle. And this is not an original thought. If we look at Jesus's model of relationships, there were the masses, the crowds. There were the dinner parties. There were the disciples. There was the inner circle, the top three, right? There was the one. And so when we follow that model, there are people who we ought to have on the outskirts of our lives, the people that we would wave at from the window. And there are people that we would invite in onto the porch, but that's as far as they would get. There are people that we would invite inside. You can actually sit on my couch. You're a very important person. You may be able to sit in my kitchen. Whoa, you have leveled up. And if you want to upgrade, you getting into my bedroom.
Yeah, come on.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
but this is how we have to think about our relationships. Who are we giving access to? And we must have an inner circle, even if it's only the one. That person that we can pour our hearts out to. That person that we can trust. You know, people laugh at Oprah, but she has an amazing model.
Yeah.
Her inner circle, we know her inner circle.
Yeah.
That's Gail and Stedman. Now, she may have some other people, and she had some other people who were mentors to her, you know, the Cicely Tyson, the Maya Angelou, and people like that. But she has that one or two people that this my crew, my cabinet, I think they call it. Number 5. Now, y'all may be thinking I'm joking, right? Get a pet. You could have some amazing conversations with pets.
That's a good one.
I'm serious.
I like it.
And
Yeah.
you know what? It causes us to, it gives us a focal point for our love and attention, which is what we crave as human beings. We crave connection.
Yeah.
And pets do it for some people. The care of a pet, the company of a pet, the unconditional love of a pet. There is nothing like when you open that door and that pet comes running to you. They're so happy to see you. They want to curl up next to you. You're watching TV, right? I mean, it's a relationship. And an important one if you don't want to be alone. Now, I'm really more of a goldfish person because I'm very low maintenance in many things. So the pet thing is not for me, but the pet thing can work for a lot of people. When
you're also a busy person, so
a busy person,
pet, you know, dogs and so forth needs attention a little bit extra.
Exactly. So, and I know I'm not going to be able to give it, so I'm not going to do that to myself or the pet, right? The 6th one, and this is going to sound funny too, right? I just put a little funny ones, but these are true. Get a life.
Wow.
As a single person, get a life.
Yeah.
What do I mean by that? What are your interests? What are your hobbies? What do you want to get out there and do? I can't tell you the amount of events that I've gone to, either by myself or with girlfriends or with family or whomever. Going to see a play, going to a movie, going to a sip and paint, going to a lecture, going to a museum. Like, what are you interested in? That's right, Lucretia. Lucretia says, get up and do something. Do something with your life. Yeah. You can't be sitting there in the house complaining that you all alone. How are you going to meet people in there? Yeah. You're not going to meet people unless you get out and do something. Yeah. And I don't want y'all to shoot me for this, but church ain't the only place that you can meet people.
Come on, ain't that the truth?
Come on now. Go sit in a restaurant. Yeah. Go to the mall. Go do something. Yeah. Find yourself busy doing something that fulfills you and uplifts you. I had to recognize that I really don't have a hobby. The only hobby that I think that I really have is eating out. Yes, I am a foodie. And so going to a restaurant or some new place where they're serving some food is the thing for me. I mean, it is an experience. I will go there and try stuff and try something new and just take it all in. Whatever floats your boat, just do something. I remember going into a restaurant many times and people look at you cross-eyed when you're by yourself and they're like, party of one. I'm like, oh, yeah. I remember a young lady asking me, the hostess who sat me, she said, are you really going to eat by yourself? Like, she was so intrigued by it.
Wow.
She said, because I've never done anything by myself.
Wow.
I'm married. I have 4 kids. I've never done anything by myself. And I said, you should try it sometime. It's helpful. And number 7, give yourself in service. It's a great strategy, again, to give of yourself and to not focus so much on your needs or your deficiencies. Oftentimes when we sit and we're stewing about our life, we're always thinking about what we don't have. Why do we do that? That's something that we need to unlearn. Let's embrace what we do have. What are the skills, the abilities that you can offer to someone else? And it doesn't have to be to a huge organization. It could be someone in your circle, someone that you've observed that maybe they need mentoring. Maybe you live next door to a stressed out single parent. Maybe you could just offer yourself as a babysitter and give them a self-care day. Just give them space to have that alone time for themselves or to run errands or do things. Give of yourself. And even when you give of yourself, you're continuing to interact with people and you're continuing to learn more about yourself and to understand more about yourself as you give of yourself. So those are my 7 strategies for the single person coach.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing that, guys. Go back and watch that over and over. Tag somebody you think will enjoy that. Share this live because I guarantee it'll bless you. There's a question, there's a comment actually. It talks about we also need to unlearn comparing ourselves. This is the last question. Before we hit our last question and just bring this home, talk about that comparison. And here's the deal. There is a deeper comparison factor that goes on that a lot of people don't accept, that we feel some kind of way when we go to weddings. We feel some kind of way on the weekends. We feel some kind of way when people say we're going out this weekend and we start thinking about what others are doing, when the truth is, even if you could go, you haven't done the work to make sure that you're needing to go, because you may not be in that best of a place to go with someone as everyone else may be doing. But comparison, talk to us about that, because there are a lot of single people who are stressed out because they're comparing themselves with their siblings, they're comparing with themselves with those on their job, comparing themselves with those they see on TV, social media. What's your view on that?
Comparison is the thief of joy, is my view. Comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison will suck the life out of the enjoyment of your present moment. And it's a terrible thing when you compare yourself in a deficient way to other people and to their life experiences. And social media hasn't made it any easier, because we're looking at everybody's highlight reel. We're looking at the best version of themselves on the outside that we can see, and thinking that, I can't measure up to this. I don't have that body. I don't have that physique. I don't have that look. I don't have that hair. I don't have those outfits. I don't have, they have a great phone, or a professional's taking those photos. Like, I don't have, and it just takes away from your enjoyment. And so you have to look at yourself as complete, and complete with or without. I remember one year, it was like a New Year's, and I wanted to just go jet skiing. I wanted to try it out. I just said it looked like fun, and I wanted someone to go with me. And I was asking around. I asked friends, I asked family. Nobody was interested. Nobody wanted to go. So you know what I did? I took myself. I said, so while I'm here looking at somebody's Instagram on the back of a boat, let me go and create my own highlight reel here. I was by myself, but I had a blast because I did what I wanted to do. So when we compare ourselves, it goes right back to the very beginning. Do you know yourself? Because if you know yourself, you wouldn't be so caught up with what other people are doing and what they have and who they are becoming. You would be caught up on who you are and who you want to become. So as Dallas said, love yourself. Be happy with who you are. And, again, when we go back to these timelines that we put on ourselves, these societal limitations that says you have to be doing these things, you should have certain things by a certain stage of life, all of those things bring us into a place of condemnation. And it just fuels that inner critic and says to us that I'm not enough, I'm out of place, I'm out of season, I'm not going to make it. This is not going to work. We have to shift out of that way of thinking. So a lot of this work, my friends, is mindset work. A lot of this centers on your beliefs. What do you believe about yourself, about the people around you, about work, life, marriage, love, children, money? What do you believe? And then that will help you to fully embrace who you are. And it's nothing wrong with looking at what other people are doing and admiring what they're doing, but it should inspire you, not depress you.
Wow. Yeah. If you're being depressed by seeing how other people show up in the world, it's clear that you're not doing the work on you and you're not setting yourself up to win as you continue to move forward. You've got to get to the point where you start to realize, I am going to do the work to make the rest of my life the best of my life. Last question, Simmone. When you think about the term effective living as a single person, what comes to mind?
Effective living for me as a single person is, again, embracing who you are and why you are. I started off with that. And so when you are living effectively, it means that you're living in a place where you are emotionally intelligent. And so there are 4 aspects to that I will say very quickly. I mentioned one already, which was self-awareness. The other is self-management. You're able to control yourself in your feelings. You know what is the right time to do or say or go or not go. You can control your life. So when you're living effectively, you are doing things strategically and intentionally. You're not living willy-nilly. You're not going based on a whim or a fancy. You're not going based on the last thing you saw when you were scrolling in somebody's feed. You're not going based on peer pressure, what somebody else is saying you should do. You're living intentionally and strategically when you live effectively as a single. The other parts of emotional intelligence is your social awareness. This is your ability to understand other people and to be able to demonstrate empathy and to be able to now navigate your relationships effectively because you are coming from a place of understanding, not only of yourself, but of them. I always remember this example of, and I can't remember where I've heard it. I've heard a couple people talk about it. And I think Simon Sinek may have been the last person that I heard say it. And he's talking about when you know that you've fallen in love. And he says that when your significant other comes home and has had the worst day ever, even if you have had your best day ever, you would not talk about it until they talked about their worst day ever. And you would find the right time to share your amazing news. But your other awareness is so strong that it would allow you to now demonstrate empathy to that other person that needs it the most. Do you need to talk about your amazing accomplishment right now while the person that you say you love so much is broken? So I believe that when we live effectively, we understand other people, even when we're single. These are the lessons. This is the practice. This is the learning ground for us to be able to successfully navigate relationships, whatever they may be. We want to be the best friends we can be. We want to be the best family members we can be. If we are single and parenting, we want to be the best parent that we could be. We want to be the best baby mama, baby daddy that we could be. We don't want to be that person who is drama filled and drama's following us and darkness is following us and negativity is following us. We want to be that single person who is living a life that's on purpose, on intention, on strategy. And I believe then that it looks effective and feels effective.
Ladies and gentlemen, Simmone Bowe always delivers. Okay, this is so good. Listen, I wanted to go on. And I said, listen, Ricardo, you over time.
I know.
And then the time difference is already late. It's a little bit later for you guys than it is for us here in Texas. But
yes.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much for blessing us tonight. Go ahead and tell our viewing audience how they can follow you, capitalize on your services, Limitless Life Leadership Coaching Services. They got to connect with you. You're phenomenal at what you do, and you're available to provide your services. So tell them how they can connect.
Thank you. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm everywhere as Simmone L. Bowe, Simmone with 2 M's. So I'm on LinkedIn, I am on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I have contact information there. My email is there, phone number is there. You can drop me a private message. I will respond. I'm really good at that. I don't have anyone hired to answer my messages. And on my Facebook page, you can find my link for my calendar. And if you want to book a discovery session, it's complimentary, and you can get some minutes with me so that we can talk about where you are and where you want to go.
Love it. Someone is assigned to help you. I am of the belief that oftentimes during talks like this, something is said where it triggers an awakening moment in a person's life where they say, I need to talk to that lady. I need a session. And that's really what this is all about. I want to help as many people as possible discover discover their why, and live life at a whole new level. And every guest that we bring on here on Effective Living, that's their goal as well, is to help you tap into what you may have not tapped into, or remind you of what you have forgotten and maybe need to bring back to the forefront. Guys, every day, Monday to Friday, we're here on our Effective Living YouTube channel, bringing some great content. If you've enjoyed this, once again, give me a thumbs up and please like the page. Now, for those of you in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, this coming Saturday, guys, we have our Effective Living Fitness in the Park event. I would love for you to come on out and check the event out. Listen, guys, you can still register. Go to the website. It's going to be fun. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to do a number of events. One of them is centered around working out. The other one is going to be a run. And then we have a treasure hunt, adult fun experience. So Simmone, I built Effective Living around these 5 foundational F's: faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. Well, on Saturday, we're connecting, ladies and gentlemen, fitness and fun, and you can even bring family. It's going to be a great day. Simmone, thank you so much for the information you provided. It was so good. I appreciate you on so many levels. We're going to have to do this again. Blessings to you.
Thank you so much, my friend. You're doing a phenomenal work. I'm very proud of you, and I want to move to Texas. You can help me out with that. Coach me on that page.
Listen, we don't have to make that happen.
I'm serious. I'm not joking.
What you bring to the world, Texas will embrace it I'm telling you, we're gonna have to get you here in Texas, okay?
Yes, please.
God bless you. Have a good night.
Blessings to you.